Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. Yes, the famous or infamous Twilight novel, the first in the Twilight book series that she wrote. Now, the first thing I'll say with this is that I am attempting to broaden my horizons as a reader. I am trying to try out new genres, trying to try out new types of books, new authors, things like that. And one of the things I decided to do was to try out more YA. I just recently went through the whole Divergent series, and I really enjoyed it. And so I decided to try other series like Twilight, because it's one of those big series that like a lot of people have read, and so I just wanted to give it a chance just to see how it was. And so I actually found books 3 and 4 in hardcover and only had the first 2 in paperback, and then I found books 1 and 2 in hardcover for really cheap. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead so that they're all matching set. So I have all the books in hardcover, and I read the first one, and you know what? I enjoyed it. It's a very entertaining book. Is it my favorite YA book? No, but it's a very entertaining book. Although I can see a few criticisms of it. The people, specifically the people in my family, like my siblings and some of my friends, view this as like an awful book series and an awful movie series. They think it's just terrible all around, and they just think it's awful that someone like me would read it. Not because of moral purposes necessarily in the book, just because they think it's so written poorly. They think it's just so stupid and things like that. And so I was like, I just want to give it a chance, let me see how it is. And it's entertaining. The first thing about the book that really stood out to me was the character dynamics between Bella and Edward. As a person who likes kind of sappy romances, this really hooked me. I was, from like their first scenes together, I was invested in seeing how their relationship developed. And I think Stephenie Meyer does a good job of making you interested in what's happening to the characters. Each of them makes just stupid decisions throughout the book, so they're not exactly the smartest of characters, but I would say that they are still very, I'm still invested and interested in them, and I'm hoping for the best with them, even though I know that will be tumult down the road. I thought there would be more of the infamous like love triangle in this book, and apparently that doesn't start till book 2, because it wasn't really here much, but anyway, I was very invested in their relationship. So I think that was a very good positive for the book. Another positive for the book I'll give it is it was very atmospheric. This book takes place in the Pacific Northwest, where it's supposed to be very gloomy, very rainy, very dark and like cloudy and stuff. And I've never lived in the Pacific Northwest, but I do live in an area of the country in Georgia where it rains a lot. In fact, the day that I was reading this mostly, it was raining all day long. And it was dark outside, and it was, you heard thunder a little bit. We had the power go out at one point. So this was a very atmospheric read, and just worked really well for the time that I was reading it. So I did like that. I also, I like some of the minor characters that we get. I like the description of how the Cullen family works. I like the character of Charlie, her dad. I also like some of the friends at school. What I think is particularly interesting about this book is it doesn't portray the parents or the adults as stupid as some YA books series do, or as incompetent. And in fact, several of the adults are very competent in the book. It's just that some of the adults are aware of the situation, and some of the adults just aren't. And so that's why certain adults, like the adult Cullens, are very much involved in everything, and why adults like Charlie aren't as involved in things in the book. I also thought that the introduction, the idea of taking the character into a new place, putting Bella in this new place for the first time, is again, it works really well when you have a character who's new to a situation because you can easily put yourself in that character's shoes. And I don't know if other people have experienced this, but I had to move around a lot as a kid, so I was going to new schools all the time, so I could empathize with the idea of going to a new place, having to make new friends, having to have the same conversation over and over because you just met everyone there. So I actually quite understand a lot of the emotions that the characters are going through, and they're very much, I think Stephenie Meyer gets how teenagers talk and interact with each other. So I thought that was very solid. It's weird that Edward is a 120-year-old trapped in a or 105-year-old, however he old is, like a 100-year-old trapped in like a 17-year-old's body. That's a little weird, but I'll go past it. I understand what Stephenie Meyer's going for here. I know what she's going for. I also thought that I did have a few negatives of the book, specifically with the pacing. I think that this book is throughout, like from the first chapter to the last chapter, it felt like there was just too much in each chapter, too much description, too slow moving of a plot, too much characters talking about feelings that she could have cut throughout, like in literally every chapter. Almost. It's, sometimes in a book, it's like, okay, there's like entire scenes in this section that I think should be cut. I read a book recently where I love the beginning of the end, but the middle was just too long, should have just cut out big portions of the middle and it still would have worked. This is a book where it's like I would have cut a page here from this chapter and maybe a page this and like just shorten everything down. This book is about 500 pages. Now, it's not the same as like an adult novel, 500 pages, but still, it's a decent length. And I think that this book could have been cut here and there to make it move a little bit faster of a pace throughout literally the whole book. So it's not like there's a particular place. That being said, because you're so invested in the relationships of Edward and Bella, I think that this still works really, really well. It's just that pacing, I think, is a bit of an issue. Also, with the writing style. This is not the most advanced writing style. This is not the most nuanced writing style. This is a very, I would say, juvenile writing style. But I think it works in this case because it is about teenagers. You're reading about teenagers and their emotions and their angst and their feelings. And the dialogue didn't seem ridiculous to me. It really didn't. The dialogue seemed pretty accurate to the way I hear teenagers talk at my school, and just didn't, maybe it could have been a little bit more elevated, but it worked for me. In fact, there were a few words in here I actually had to look up, so I thought that was interesting. And it wasn't slang terms, it was just, so even this type of a book has new words to me, and not just, slang. The ending of the book, the last 100 pages, cranks up the speed quite a bit, and it's so weird that I've had that with a couple of YA series recently, like Divergent. The first book I thought was so slow going, and then all of a sudden it just kind of cranks up at the end. Now with this book, I still think even the last 4 or 5 chapters that are the last 100 pages, still I would cut a little bit in those, but you can see a dramatic plot difference, and that's because that's when the action starts, is the last 100 pages. But I thought it was interesting that it really picked up there. And really, even though I technically have seen all the movies about four and a half years ago. I had technically seen them, but I didn't remember the details of them. So when I was reading the book, there was a couple times where I'm like, I kind of remember that from the movie, but generally, I didn't feel like I was just going along with the movie plot. I felt like I was reading something mostly new to me because I didn't really remember everything that happened. So I still think it's really entertaining. That's generally my thoughts on Twilight. I have books 2 through 4. I'll get to them eventually this year. I probably will do one a month. I was going to do one a month for the Divergent series and basically read that all in January because I was just so invested and just happened to work in my schedule's favor. If my schedule works out that way, I don't think it'll be February that I'll finish it all up, but I'll certainly continue on with the series. Yeah, I'll continue on. It's an entertaining series. I'll be interested to see where it lines up in all my YA series. After this, because of all the YA I've talked about recently, can I say that I've been saying I'm not a YA reader, I'm not well versed in YA. Can I still say that because I've been reading a lot more of it? So I don't know. You tell me. And speaking of you tell me, let me know your thoughts on this book, Twilight, and the other books. Let me know your thoughts on the movie as well, and let me know what other YA series you think I should get into eventually. Let me know all those thoughts and comments in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.